Hello and welcome to episode 1018 of the Sleeper and the Bust. It is 2 on a Tuesday, and we're talking catchers. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined by Justin Mason. Justin, it's that kind of day. We're talking about the number 2 position on 2.
Dropping the deuce on the catcher position. It is
a number 2 position.
Yeah, it is the shittiest position in fantasy. So this is what we're gonna roll with. But it's got to be talked about.
Has to, because a lot of leagues are still 2 catchers, and that puts a whole different spin on it. If it's 1 catcher, you can kind of wait. Even if you get the 10th, you're just not going to be that far behind. You can stream all season if you want to take it easy, or if you want to go big, you can go big even in a 1 catcher, take Sal or something. It's really up to you. 2 catcher leagues is really what we're focused on here, and that's why we're going to get deep on some folks. We did
What is your when you're in a 1 catcher league? Because I think most people play in 1 catcher leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm the type of person who just says, unless I'm getting a really good price on one of the elite guys, I just wait till the end.
I generally do too. Because I still like who's the 10th catcher, like Mitch Garver. I'm fine with that. Like I'm not bothered by that.
It could be a handful of guys.
So it could be any number of guys, and then I can start mixing and matching. So yeah, unless I see like a Varsho, a Grandal, a Will Smith, or even one of the top 2 dogs, Sal Perez, JT Realmuto, dropping, I'm not really going to jump in. 2 catcher leagues, however, I want some quality, and I want probably like a top 5-6 guy, and then another guy in like my top 14. So I kind of want 2 of my top 14 to 17 type.
Yeah, I want probably a top 7 guy, and then and hopefully maybe 2 top 12 guys.
I mean, that'd be great, but if I can't get that, I'm not.
But I'm also fine waiting. Like I really look for kind of the deals at the position, whether that's because a guy I really like that's an elite guy drops, or I just wait till the end. Like, I don't have a problem going in with like my going into a season with my catcher 23 and 24 or something like that. If that's I know that the numbers actually bear out that that's a poor strategy.
I will say, I mean, my 23 and 24 this year, Jan Gomes, Tucker Barnhart. I actually don't think that that's quite as bad, because that's like a halftime guy in Gomes who is always pretty solid, and then a full-time guy in Barnhart who is just going to kind of, give you some volume, but nothing special. I start to get worried, like, I don't know, if you get deeper than that, like, I don't really want a Joey Bart, Eric Haas combo. Some might say, what's the difference between that and the one you just said? I mean, obviously, I have those other guys ranked much lower. There is a cutoff, though, where you get too deep and you are giving something away. But so my question for you, if you do go in with, say, your 23 and 24, are you then looking to improve? Or if they are starters, are you just leaving it?
Yeah, no, I'm always looking to improve, especially a catcher. I think often what people do in leagues is they draft a guy and then they roll with him.
Yeah.
If I'm not rolling with an elite guy, one of the top 2 or 3 tiers at catcher, then I'm constantly looking for the next kind of breakout guy. Especially someone like, Matt Dice, who is, right now first base only, but will pick up catcher eligibility. He's probably going to play some of the field at either first or DH throughout the year. So I'm constantly looking to kind of string that position when I don't invest highly in it.
I like that. And I do think that's a way to go. I'll put Matt Theis there on the bottom tier. Let's get into it. I got this broken down in a bunch of different groupings here. They're not in full ADP order. I will mention ADPs over the last month in the Draft Champions leagues right now, because that is what we're getting the most of, and I think that will be the most useful. There have been 100. Wait, hang on. That's not just Draft Champions. In Draft Champions over the last month of time, and again, that's from 121. I mean, you can put in 222, but there's no drafts for today, so it's through 221. There's 51 drafts that we're going off of for Draft Champions catchers at the NFBC. And we'll start with the studs. And these are in ADP order with Salvador Perez, around pick 39. JT Realmuto, pick 54. Will Smith, pick 64. Now, these three are the cut above. The next guy that we're going to talk about is kind of on his own. He's picked 94. So we're talking 2 full rounds away. That's why these three kind of set themselves up. Perez, Realmuto, Will Smith. Any of them in your draft plan consistently?
Not consistently.
Okay.
It's more of a matter of, there's kind of a sweet spot or an unsweet spot in the draft around like rounds 5 and 6 where I
I
don't
know what you're talking about.
necessarily love a lot of the hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I get to that point and one of them is still on the board, I go, I don't really love the other hitters as much as I love getting that kind of advantage at catcher. So it kind of falls into a roster construction, issue for me. At that point, have I gotten 2 starting pitchers and at least 1 closer? So I definitely want to go offense. But is there an offensive player that I really like that's going to get me speed or be a real asset in all categories? So I have ended up with JT Realmuto a few times and Will Smith a few times. Sal Perez, I never seem to be able to get at the price.
It's just so expensive.
I mean, we talked about this. I think it was the last episode that we did together on Guys We're Out on. I can't imagine paying an early third or late second round price for a catcher, especially one who's had as much wear and tear on his body over the course of his career.
He doesn't run. Like
Yeah.
when Realmuto was up there, I could get behind it because those 10 catcher steals can be so beneficial. With Perez, it's that power, and it's amazing power. And I do think, there is some wiggle room. Again, I understand the projections and how he can have a lesser season than he did last year, a much lesser season, and it still be worth it due to the positional adjustment. But I don't want to give up those numbers at pick 40 and just hang my hat on the projections saying, well, I'm still good here because I have that catcher advantage. I want to still be getting volume there. So my favorite of those three is going to be Realmuto or Smith. I mean, I like those two way more than Perez at 40 because they're coming almost a round and a half later. Haven't really ended up with any of the three that much. The next couple groups is where I start to get in. But yeah, with Perez, Realmuto, Smith, obviously you're setting yourself up well. Now, when you do get one of those guys, do you back them up with another quality guy, or do you wait a little bit, say, I'll use some of this advantage, and then if I get Yachty as my next guy or Danny Jansen or James McCann, I'm fine with it? How do you approach it if you do get the stud catcher with your second catcher?
It doesn't really change my approach a ton. I'm still willing to take another catcher early if the value is right.
Okay.
But it's not something I'm saying like I need to go get another guy. So for instance, in this draft champions that you and I are in, that is army crawling its way along.
It has slowed down.
Thankfully, we got to the 31st round yesterday, so that it is speeding up now. But I got GT Realmuto, and then Gary Sanchez kept dropping, and I was like, "Oh wait, I've already got the batting average cushion from Realmuto, and I got a little speed, so now I can get some pop from Gary Sanchez."
That's a good duo.
So I definitely, that was a position where I liked the price, I liked the potential upside of the player I was getting, and so I took the shot. But I also could have waited, another 60 picks before taking another catcher too, if I had wanted to.
Yeah, and I wouldn't blame you there because there is that cushion that you get with Realmuto. You don't want to give away all your advantage there, and so there is a cutoff point where I think you can wait too long if you're then putting, a Riley Adams or something as your C2, and you're saying, well, I got Realmuto. I was like, yeah, you kind of gave away a lot of your advantage there by not backing it up, because now your second catcher is so bad that you're kind of back in the middle. So yeah, those are the top three: Perez, Realmuto, Smith. They'll go in some order. It's generally that order. Sometimes Smith can go ahead of Realmuto, but neither of those two are really jumping up ahead of Perez. Perez is very much out in front as the top catcher. The next tier is by himself. It's just the potential game changer sitting there on an island in the form of Dalton Varsho. He's 94 ADP. He's not that much higher than the next group, but they start to get into triple digits after that. And like I said, he's a few rounds behind Smith. So I felt like because of the uniqueness of what Varsho also delivers, he did make sense here to kind of put on his own tier. I called him the potential game changer. He has catcher and outfield. If you put him in the outfield, you are making a giant mistake. Do not do that. Never use catchers at other positions unless it is a must. A dire situation where you're going to take a 0 otherwise. So you put Tyler Stevenson at first or Varsho in the outfield for a week or two. But otherwise, you're giving away so much to put a catcher somewhere other than catcher. But Varsho, the beauty here is that we could have a non-catching catcher. Carson Kelly's a markedly better defender behind the dish. So he is the A catcher. Varsho can play outfield 5 days a week, one time a catcher, maybe one day off, or some weeks not even a day off. He could be a huge volume guy. He had the great second half that has a lot of folks excited, and I count myself among them. He put up an 879 OPS with 10 homers, 5 steals, and 219 plate appearances. And I think people are bought in on this could be the breakout season. So pick 94 for Dalton Varsho. Is this something that you can get behind? Are you in on the Varsho train?
Yeah, I'm a little afraid the price is going to continue to rise to the point where I'm not going to be as interested because
where's your cutoff?
It's just a little bit higher than this. Maybe I don't think I would take him as his top 75 player.
Okay. So about another round higher, you're like tapping the brakes.
And I am afraid that he could find his way there, especially if we get any sort of news that he's looked at as a full-time player. I think that is kind of the assumption. I don't know if it's the correct assumption, though.
Why is that?
I just don't trust Arizona. Like, Arizona.
What do they have, though?
They have a few outfielders, right? Like, they've got Peralta, they've got your boy Pavin Smith.
Peralta's a corner only though guy, and we have Varsho penciled in at center. Pavin Smith can play a little center, he's my guy, as you mentioned, but I think Varsho is the more athletic player there in center, and so having Peralta and Smith on his corners makes a lot more sense. They got Jordan Luplau, Josh Van Meter on the bench. Neither of them really check out as premier center fielder. I know Ketel Marte is there, but we got him fully at second base. There is some maneuverability where he could wind up back in the outfield.
Yeah, especially if they want to play Perdomo at short. Yeah, because he's the future. They can move Nick Ahmed to second base. That being said, I think the upside is really, really nice because while I don't think Varsho is a very good catcher in the true sense of being a catcher,
he's quite bad, actually.
Yeah, he's awful. And this is something I've been saying for a long time. His bat is going to play. And the stolen bases you get from the catcher position, I think, are really, really valuable. This may be the last year he even qualifies a catcher.
I was literally just about to say that. I think next year is actually going to be the last year. I think we're going to get 20 games this year, but it's going to be sub 35, I think, at catcher. Yeah. But it could be 100 in the outfield, though. And so, the projections range from 102 to 113 games. I got to say, I think even ATC is selling him a little light for Varsho at 113 games, 432 plate appearances. I think he's got a real shot to pop 450 or higher because I really believe in the outfield playing time there for Varsho. Now, he has to hit as well. His first tour was pretty terrible in 2020. He had 115 plate appearances of a 75 WRC plus. And then the first half of last year wasn't very good. We've really only seen that 219 plate appearance second half last year that took off. But he's going to be 25. He's got some pop, got some speed. That speed is really the game changer. He had 19 and 21 steals and 18 and 19 in the minors for Varsho with good batting average. He doesn't strike out a ton either. I really, really like him. He's somebody that I'm still willing to pay even a bit more than this. Now, his min pick is 65. You've already said you're out on that. Yeah. I think I'm out on that too. I'm a little bit more open to the 70s than you are, but I do think once you start going top 60, top 65, because I think that min will drop. You said it could go, his pick could go higher. I think a min pick of, I'm going to guess that in the main event, Varsho's min pick is 45. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah,
maybe not that high. Only
I guess that's the end of the third.
Yeah,
I think I'll have a fourth round though. I think I'll have a fourth round.
He could.
Min.
Yeah, I mean, people throw ADP out the window.
Exactly.
It's just, what is the closer situation going to look like at Mains? And,
True.
starting pitching always gets pushed up. We're starting to see it happen again already this draft season. The interesting thing for me is that he had such a good second half, in spite of the fact like his contact rates actually got worse. The part of it is he got more aggressive, and he's super, super aggressive in the zone. Like we're
Mm-hmm.
talking like a 75% or 72% zone swing percentage.
Ooh.
Yeah, not a zone contact, a zone
Okay.
swing percentage.
My man hacking.
Like if it's in the zone and really out of the zone too, he is gonna swing. So I think there is a lot of risk with a pick like this. And so it kind of comes down because while the ceiling is astronomically high, like this is one of those guys going outside the top 75 that could actually return like first or second round value because of the position
Especially with
kind
the
of.
with
Yeah.
the catcher adjustment. If we're
Mhm.
talking,
Stolen bases, he does have a lot of power too in that bet.
mhm.
The question is how much can he make enough contact?
21% strikeout last year,
Mhm.
11% swinging strike rate. So we could see strikeout range as high, I
Thir-
think, as 25%.
37% O swing after August 1st.
So
Um,
he was hacking up there,
zone contact was
slanging.
his zone contact percentage was about 81.5%.
Okay.
So like that's not awful, especially for a
No.
guy who is hacking the way he is. But it's just you have to know that the floor is really low.
Hmm.
And so if you aren't comfortable with taking someone with that low of a floor that early in a draft,
How low are you talking?
I think it's back to the minor leagues. Like I think it's like unusable to the point where he's not going to play at all.
So, like, go back to the 2020 line where he was like 188, 287, 366 with a 29% strikeout rate, 10% walk rate.
Yep.
You could see the things that were there: 3 homers, 3 steals in those 115 plate appearances, but too many strikeouts, not enough good luck with a 246 BABIP. He wasn't a huge BABIP last year either at 286. So, yeah, Varsho, he's not question free, but I do like the upside here. He is somebody that I'm open to taking. Do you have
But
any? Go ahead. Go
I
ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say on the flip side of that, he is legit 2020 upside at the catcher position.
Yes, and that is so appealing. Like, be cognizant of the downside, but don't let it cloud the upside.
Mhm.
And just understand that there's risk. And if you're comfortable with that risk around pick 100 or closer to pick 90, jump in. If you're not, feel free to pass. I'm willing to jump in though. I think those catcher steals from Varsho
It
playing
makes
the outfield could be so fun.
it makes a lot of sense, especially if you take an elite catcher. And I'm thinking more a matter of like pairing him with a guy like Will Smith, who we think is in line for a lot more playing time with a DH.
DH.
Is a really safe bat at the catcher position. Uh, like getting kind of the combination of kind of that floor with the upside of Varsho, I think would be really, really interesting.
I like
Uh,
double stacking catcher too.
mhm.
Like, I'm open to that, and I'll pair Varsho with the next guy or one of the next two. I got two steady vets here, and again, so far we've gone in ADP order, but then we're going to start to veer off that. But the next two guys, the steady vets, Yasmani Grandal, somebody I take all the time, going around pick 107, and Wilson Contreras around pick 117. By the way, we briefly mentioned Yan Gomes earlier. If Contreras was traded, obviously Yan Gomes would go way up because he'd become the full-time starter. So right now they have a pretty strong backup in Gomes. That's a nice number 2 catcher behind Contreras, but we don't know, if we'd had a regular offseason, was Contreras going to get dealt? But then they signed Stroman, so I don't know where they're going. And maybe they want Contreras to get like some outfield work. I don't know. That's pure speculation. He has played there before, but I wonder, do you think there's any chance that Contreras can get some burn elsewhere, either at a DH or back into the outfield a bit because they have such a capable second catcher in Gomes? And then we'll get to Grandal.
It feels like Contreras is going to get traded.
So you see trade more than alternate positions.
I think he could DH quite a bit.
Okay.
I think I think they could use him there.
He's
But
played left, first, and third, and right corner outfield, first and third over his career. Very briefly though. Left is the only thing he's
yeah,
like really played. 219 innings out there.
that's a lot of innings. And I'm
Yeah, no,
surprised.
he played some real left field out there. Wilson
Yeah,
Contreras did.
I'm surprised by that. But I mean, Madden was there for a while, so like he'll play guys anywhere. Just
Yeah,
plays relief pitchers out in left field just so
puts
he can.
Rizzo at short for fun.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean, he high key put him at second on some of those
yeah,
alterations that they had
he
with the bunt
gained second
setups.
base eligibility in
That's
certain
right.
leagues.
That's right. I
Which
should have just used the actual place where he played
mhm.
instead of making up short. But yeah, so Contreras there. Does Gomes' presence bother you at all with Contreras?
No, because I think if he's on that team, he's gonna play.
I agree.
And my guess, in my first gut reaction when they made that deal for Gomes, was that Contreras is on his way out. He's in the
That's kind of what I thought too.
last year of his contract. They jettisoned all those guys last year who were in the
And he was
last year of the
speculated to be
contract.
with them, but
Mhm.
he just didn't get traded with the big three.
I think they just wanted more than any team was willing to give up. So, which happens, but uh, especially if it looks like the CBA will likely include or will likely not include draft pick compensation for free agents.
Hmm.
They need to get something now for him. So whether it be at the beginning of the season or before the season or at the trade deadline. So I do
Hmm.
think he's traded at some point, which will make Gomes more interesting once that happens. But
Do you like drafting Gomes now in anticipation of that? Have you used him anywhere as a C2?
not as a C2, maybe as a C3 or 4 in a DC.
Yeah, because we're doing
Uh,
DCs and you need a minimum four unless you
yeah.
got three really banger ones. I can't leave a DC without four
No,
personally.
you have to get 4 because the catchers just get injured.
Yeah, that's just they
So
love doing that. They're idiots. They're called the tools of ignorance for a reason. Anyway, let's flip back to Grandal, a favorite of mine. I believe you like Grandal too, so I'm not trying to bogart all the Grandal love. He just is who he is, though, right? Mid-20s homers and a 240 something batting average. The league has shifted around him to make that batting average incrementally better year over year because as the batting averages come down, his has actually kind of stayed pretty solid in the 240s. He hit 240 on the button last year. He had more walks than strikeouts, which for me, what's so impressive about that is that he had a 23% walk rate.
yeah.
Right? Like when somebody has more walks than strikeouts, it's usually in like the low double digits, right? They had like an 11% walk rate and a 10% strikeout rate type of deal. He struck out 22% of the time, Grandal did, but walked 23%. So obviously he's an OBP league god. He probably goes 50 picks higher in those leagues. I haven't played an OBP league this year, so I don't know exactly. But in the batting average leagues, he's still very good. Around pick 107, 240, 23 with 63 runs driven in, 60 runs scored. And that was only in 93 games for Grandal. Remember, he went bananas after he got hurt.
Mhm.
When he came back, he just tore it up. And some folks might have gotten him off their waiver wire and it might have helped them like win a main event or something like that. I can't think of anybody like specifically with that exact thing, but like, could you imagine picking up a Yasmani Grandal off the waiver wire and then winning a main event? I mean, you
I
can't imagine it, but I can kind of imagine it.
I know how much it hurt Danielle to have to drop him and then watch him go off.
Yeah, it had to
Afterwards.
be
So,
tough when people cut him. I cut him in another league and gave somebody else the boon,
yep.
but I did get the boon in my main event league, and I missed out on Eloy, but got Grandal, and it really was
Yeah.
it was very helpful in getting me to the finish line there. But with Grandal, let me ask you: do you have any concerns that his speed or complete and utter lack thereof, and I'm not talking stolen bases, I'm talking about just running, will hurt his batting average soon? Like, is he getting that Pujols-ian cutoff where he's so slow that he turns some singles into outs and some doubles into singles type deal?
Not necessarily. I
Okay.
mean, I think there will be a little of that over, because that's just what happens with guys who get slower. But um, he absolutely murdered the ball last year.
Just destroyed it.
The fact that he only played 93 games is the only reason we're not looking at him as like a Sal Perez type season last year.
You're right. It looks like one of his run-of-the-mill seasons, but those are run-of-the-mills with 130, 140 games. He did it in 93.
So, and I mean, he had career highs in exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, like
just tattooing it.
He was just, crushing the ball. I think he's a little bit underrated, honestly.
I tend to agree.
You have him as your number 3 catcher. I have him as my number 4 catcher. I think he honestly kind of belongs in that elite tier of catchers. It's a shock to me I have not gotten him in any leagues yet.
Because you haven't?
I haven't. Because he should be going higher than he is, and I've just been addressing other issues, at that point in the draft. But I think moving forward, I definitely need to make him a priority in getting, because, like you said, like he's a guy who plays 130 games usually, which you can't really say that for most catchers. So
because you could comfortably DH him, right? Because he's so good that if a team DHs Grandal, and the White Sox can definitely do, and they have other guys too, so he's not going to get all the DH run. But when he's out and they bring in like a Zach Collins or Zevi Zavala, they don't want Grandal's bat out of the lineup, so he can get a first base play or a DH play regularly. I've got him twice already. I got him in the Speakers League and then a DC that I think I did with you, my first DC.
Yeah, I think I remember that one.
Yeah, I think this one was with you. So I've already got him a couple spots, and it won't be the last 2. I really, really like Grandal.
Yeah, he's just a guy that I definitely need to kind of target a little bit more, because I do think he's a bit undervalued by the market right now.
Oh yeah, this was that Shark Tank that you invited me into. Thank you for that. You're like, hey, do you want to come get eaten by freaking Bubba and freaking Gable and I mean several other guys. Well, you did make it easy by having Zach Waxman in there, which was nice. I did appreciate that. You made it a little bit easier there. You didn't want it to be all Sharks. I totally get that.
Zach Waxman, just the overall winner of the auction. Online auction.
Like what's he ever done?
Yeah, right. He hasn't won an overall. He hasn't won like 40.
And we had the guy who he beat in there. Gable is who he beat out.
I didn't realize that.
And they had a real. Gable was on Zach's pod. And so they were chopping it up there. No, that was a Shark Tank. That was like my first DC of the year. I'm like, okay, well, why start off slow? Don't start in the deep end. But yeah, I got Grandal there. But let's continue on. So Grandal, Contreras, I like both. Do you like Contreras too? I didn't really ask if you liked him. Okay,
I do like him. I think he's not quite as
your 6, my 7.
Yeah, it's not quite as sexy as maybe some of the other options, but I think he's just kind of a rock at the position, which is very useful. Again, I haven't gotten him. I haven't gotten him at all yet this season. Oh no, actually I got him once, I think. He's one of those guys that I think drops sometimes out of nowhere, and when he does that, I'll take a dart throw at him.
I agree. I feel like he's a little bit like 117 pick. He's not forgotten. I don't want to use that word. That's the wrong word for Contreras. But like, it's kind of like nobody jumps up to get him. Like you'll see a couple of the next guys jump over him in drafts regularly, and that's when it creates the buying opportunity for Contreras. This group I call the next ones up. Tyler Stevenson, who goes around pick 157 on average. Keibert Ruiz, who goes 158. They go right by each other, Stevenson, Ruiz. Adley Rutschman, who is the 10th catcher off the board at pick 205. And then Alejandro Kirk, who's a bit further down at 244. But these are the 4 young guys who a lot of people are saying, they can help create the next big wave of catchers, right? There is a lot of young catchers coming up that we could see, kind of the passing of the torch from the Grandals and Contrerases and Sal Perez's to these guys. Any of these next ones up, Stevenson, Ruiz, Rutschman, Kirk, primary targets for you at all?
I wouldn't say they're primary targets for me. I like them all, and I would like to get them, each one in a league. The only one, or actually, no, I think I've gotten Rutschman and I've gotten Alejandro Kirk.
Mm-hmm.
I just typically never land on these guys in draft because either someone likes them a little bit more than me, or it's a matter of I see, especially with Ruiz and Stevenson, and I mean, I've been a big Stevenson guy for a while. I end up seeing Kirk later, and I go, I'm just going to wait until Kirk. And so I'm not ending up with him. I feel like Stevenson's getting overpriced. I really like Stevenson a lot. I think he could benefit from the DH. The problem is in Cincinnati, as they're currently constructed right now, Moustakas is going to play a lot of DH, which means Stevenson can't play as much. Um, so
Yeah.
if the Reds make a move and move someone off that infield so Moustakas can play the field, more often, I'm going to feel a lot more confident in Stevenson. But um, at the moment, I think Kirk is the one that I'm going to end up with just because he's going later.
I'm fine with the Kirk piece there. I'm definitely not going to push back on that because I like Kirk too. And we have talked about the Toronto situation. They have 3 catchers right now, with a 4th on the rise, who we'll get into later, in Gabriel Moreno. But with Kirk, Danny Jansen, and Reese McGuire, they have 3 guys who are like legit starting catchers. They got to make a move somewhere because some team can use one of those guys and clear something up. Again, especially with Moreno knocking on the door. He had a badass AFL. He could feasibly be ready to make the majors this year. But I do like Kirk, and I think that keeps his price down, which I do like too. We really started to see him hit in the second half. So I do lean on him, but I like Stevenson a lot. And I understand your concern about, that supplemental playing time. I remember when Barnhart got traded, everyone's like, oh, this is going to be bananas because now he's going to get even more playing time. It's like, he had 402 plate appearances last year in 132 games, though. A lot of coming in the middle of the game too for Stevenson. I think he can push for 50, 50 plus, 50, 60 more plate appearances for him this year. But I don't know that's going to be a ton. Where I really see growth for Stevenson, though, I think his power is ready to take a step up. I don't have metrics for you there. I got to be honest. Like, it's not under the hood. It's more in the scouted raw power, which is a 65 raw, bringing it into game more as he develops. Now, this might be more of a 2023 thing for Stevenson. I'll admit that. But I'm going to bet on the come this year because I feel like even if I take last year as a repeat at this pick, it's not going to kill me. 10 homers, 286 average, 45 runs, 56 runs, 45 ribbies. I think he'll get a little bit more counting category for playing more for Stevenson, but I'll take that 286 average. But I still think there's a 20 homer season here. Dude is 6'4", 225. He has raw pop. He needs to translate it into game power. I think his second tour around the majors is going to start to tap into that power, and that's why I like Stevenson this year. And I still think he can get the occasional day at first or DH to give the older guys a day off when he's when he's not catching. So I really like Stevenson of this group. I've already got him in a couple different drafts. So do you think that he can hit 20 this, or what are the chances you think Stevenson hits 20 this year instead of do you think?
Ooh, that's a really good question because I do think he can. There's no doubt about his power. We've seen him play live at the AFL, and I've watched him a fair amount playing on the Reds. I think there's plenty of power in that bat to hit 20, actually to hit 30 home runs.
I think that's like the hot take, bold prediction situation. But I think 20 is what we can get this year, like pretty easily.
Yeah. I think it's going to come down to will he make a conscious change to his swing in order to hit for more power? Because, I mean,
Give up some of that contact.
Because you know what his zone contact percentage was?
It's got to be high. He has a 7% swing strike rate and an 18% strikeout rate. So it has to be high for Stevenson. Give it to me.
91.2. It's elite, especially
That's
for
amazing.
It's elite for anybody, but for a catcher, that is unreal.
Yep.
But it also came with a 25% fly ball percentage.
So he's, able to get the bat around quickly, get good contact, but it's not necessarily power contact.
Yeah.
And that is a trade-off that would have to be made for sure. I think there's a lot of wiggle room there.
Absolutely.
He can, push the strikeout rate up to like 23%. Swinging strike rate might go up a little bit more. Take a few more pitches that are hittable, but they're not the power pitch. Get deeper into counts. It will add to your strikeouts. That's what happens with power guys. But then he can get some more homers.
His swinging strike rate was under 7%. I mean,
it's just nasty.
Like, I mean, he if he continues to do what he does and decides he's not going to hit for 20 or 30 home runs, like he could legitimately be like a 290 hitter at the catcher position. I think he will get more power. I think it's going to happen this year. The question is, where do we feel about the plate appearances? I don't know if I feel as confident as you do that he's going to get 450. but if he does, he could be an absolute monster at the position. So, a guy I have no problem where he's necessarily going. I just haven't been willing to pull the trigger on him myself, which is a huge bummer because earlier before this off season, I said like Stevenson was going to be my guy this next year. He
But
was my
then
guy last
Barnhart,
year. Uh,
cleared out and
yeah,
pushed the price way up because he went up.
yeah,
Stevenson went up instantly. I know you do your ADP watch. I don't know if you
hmm
had one where Stevenson was in it, but I bet you could time it to that Barnhart trade
yeah.
and then a 2-round jump for Stevenson.
Mhm.
Let's talk Kybert Ruiz because he is similar to Stevenson in terms of the contact. That's his calling card. But is the power there? He's got more like average to slightly below average raw power. The game power is way down right now, but batting average is what you're getting Ruiz for. Like a Ruiz Grandal combo is probably kind of the perfect mix. You counterbalance Grandal's batting average issues, but you also get the power with Grandal. So those two might be a super combo. What do you think of Ruiz's first full season in the majors? Going to be Washington's number one. In his brief 96 plate appearances, he struck out 10%, walked 6%, had a 6% swinging strike rate. We just talked about Stevenson. Ruiz is even better. Is Ruiz somebody you like this year for that catching batting average?
Yeah, I do like him, especially if you're looking for a batting average at catcher, especially if you've taken some maybe batting average risks early in the draft, and you don't want to compound that with a low batting average catcher later on. I think it makes a lot of sense to go for a guy like Ruiz. I think he's likely a 17 homer guy, like
Oh,
15 to somewhere 15 to 20.
that'd be huge. I think
Uh,
that's kind of a
yeah.
call there, man.
Oh, really?
I know projections have him there. I'm kind of wondering where the projections got that much pop because they're kind of with you. But I feel like with this power that we've seen, that feels like a call.
Oh,
I would
okay.
love that.
I didn't think it was.
I'm taking him for like high, like 8 to 11 homers is what I was thinking with the big batting average
Oh,
for Ruiz.
okay.
Like he
Yeah,
hit 16 in AAA, but that's AAA PCL.
I'm thinking he's probably like a 15 to
I take that all
17
day.
with like a 275 batting average.
Oh, I would
Um,
love that. I would love that. Maybe I'm short on the power production. I'm going off kind of the scouted power here, 30 game power, 45 raw. And I guess we saw a lot more power in AAA than I realized because he hit 21, 16 with the Dodgers, AAA, 5 with the Nats, AAA. So he had both leagues, right? He had the international or whatever they're called now. I think they're different now. But like
mhm.
we know that the Dodgers is in the PCL with more hitter-friendly parks. But a 269 ISO and 5 homers and 85 plate appearances in Washington's AAA is still pretty good too. So maybe the power really jumped up this year, and I missed the boat there. Only a 136 ISO in the major league sample. So I'll bump it up a bit from that single-digit area to low double digits. But if he hits 15 with that big batting average, I think Ruiz is going to be a beast.
Yeah,
I'll take that all day, man. That's Stevenson. We just said Stevenson.
mhm.
If he doesn't have the power jump, then he's going to be a 280, 15 homer type. Ruiz is pretty nice there too. Then,
Yeah.
all right, I like Ruiz. Though. I like all 4 guys in this group. I did get one Rutschman share, and was it in our triple play league or was it in
I
the
do not know.
speakers league? Let me look real quick.
I think it might have been the speaker.
It was the triple play league.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Grandal. I went Grandal Rutschman. So here's the thing. I generally am cautious about catcher prospects, right? Because they don't really pan out that often. They're a switch hitting badass catcher prospect in Baltimore. Well, what can go wrong there? That's never failed. Oh wait, Matt Wieters. But here's the thing: did Matt Wieters actually fail, or did he just fail to live up to the lofty expectations? I mean, his first year, he only played 96 games, but his first full year was 2010. He had 249, 11 with 55 and 37 runs. I don't know where that ranked for catcher in 2010. That's the tough part. But then he had 3 straight 20 homer seasons with good ribbies and runs. And Matt Wieters was like pretty good for a while. So I don't want to bog down in comparing him to Rutschman. They're not the same, but there is that little bit of Wieters in my head when I'm getting hyped about Rutschman, like, oh, I got this hyped about Wieters. He looks ready, though. He's got amazing plate skills. He hit 23 homers with a 285 average, 75 ribbies, 86 runs in 123 games at double and triple A this year. He, had a brilliant record at Oregon State. Everything screams that Rutschman's ready. The thing that kind of sold me as to why I would actually go ahead and grab at least the one share that I have is that generally, if a rookie catcher is going to get, and it was an arbitrary cutoff, but I think it was 350 plate appearances. I should have had the numbers, and I apologize for not having these at the ready. I think it was 7 of the 11 in the last decade that have gotten at least 400 plate appearances were plus bats. So over a 100 OPS plus, because I was using StatHead. And with that, the other guys were all in the 90s or even high 80s. Like, they didn't bottom out. Nobody was terrible if you hit the 400 plate appearance mark, because that means that they were trusting a catcher to get a full season of work. And so I think with that in mind, Rutschman doesn't have to be that great to be worth it. He goes off as the 9th or 10th catcher picked. Well, if you look at ATC's projection, 254 batting average, 14 homers, 49 ribbies, 50 runs, couple steals, and 421 plate appearances. That checks in at 11th in the ATC system. So you're not too far off if you're taking him 9th or 10th catcher. And that's not an egregious line for Rutschman, is it? That doesn't seem like even a breakout. That seems like he held his own pretty solidly. So are you taking the Rutschman plunge? And I will keep it specific to draft champions to give you the easy out, because then you don't have to wait for him. You're taking 4 catchers anyway. Is a draft champions Rutschman pick something that's on your mind right now as you're doing these drafts?
Absolutely.
Or is he just out?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
He is in for you.
Yeah, for sure. I've taken him in one league so far. I don't have any more DCs. So
your DC pool is done.
The question is now, will I be willing to take him in a traditional fab league where you're going to have to burn one of your reserve spots on a catcher for the first month of the season or so?
For the first, we don't know exactly.
I think I would be willing to do it depending on the price. But I think there are going to be a lot of people who are very scared to do that. Just know that if you do that, you can't take the gamble on other guys that might not be up. So no Bobby Witt Juniors.
O'Neal Cruz, I don't think is locked and loaded to be an opening day guy.
I think O'Neal Cruz will be, but I don't think he's not locked. We don't know for sure.
Yeah,
but
I think he'll be up at the very least. I think he'll maybe get the 11-day cut, whatever that first period is. But he did briefly play AAA O'Neal Cruz. Quick thing to close the loop on my numbers there. 11 guys have had at least 400 plate appearances as a rookie catcher since 2010. 6 had a 104 or better. 4 more were between 91 and 94, which is not too bad. If you're a 90-something OPS plus as a catcher, I know we don't play with OPS plus. That was Jesus Montero hitting 260 with 15 homers, not too bad. Jordan Pacheco in Colorado hitting a 310 average, only 5 homers, but 310 average and 7 steals. JT Realmuto hitting 259 with 10 homers, 8 steals with a 92 OPS plus. JP Arancibia hit 219, but he did hit 23 homers with 78 ribbies. So his 91 OPS plus wasn't too bad. And even the 11th guy was James McCann, who had an 88 OPS plus, but he hit 264 with 7 and 41. And he wasn't even that hyped. So people probably weren't even in on James McCann as a fantasy asset. So if a catcher gets 400 plate appearances in the last decade, they're usually pretty good. The team has determined that they're ready to come up and handle the role. And I think Rutschman is damn near a lock to live in this range here between the 95 to 110 OPS plus, with the chance to be much, much better.
And just so you know, Matt Wieters was the 22nd catcher in 2010.
Okay, so that's not good.
That's not good. No.
That's not good. But then the next 3 years after that, but you don't want to wait. So that was his 96 game call up, and then his first full season, and then it was 3 seasons of good. So he took a while, and then he completely fell off after that. All right, so we are in on the Rutschman. We're open to doing it, and I am in lockstep with you. I am open to it in a standard league where he's going to have to be on my bench for a little bit. So then you have to draft a third catcher.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do there then? Are you going to draft somebody who's like pretty good? Or do you just take a bum and let that replacement value be there for the first, month or few weeks? Like, how do you approach that third catcher if you do take Rutschman in a league where he's just going to be one of your reserves?
I mean, you're talking about guys who are not very good, probably. Anyways, I'd love to get like a Francisco Mejia, someone like that.
Yeah. Okay. So some upside potential.
But I also want someone I know is going to play some, right?
Yes.
I want it. I mean, the whole purpose of drafting another catcher is so you can accumulate stats. So I might sacrifice upside and even go for a guy like Martin Maldonado, who's going to play a lot. He's not going to be good.
What about just getting like Yachty to plug in?
That's taking a third catcher higher in the draft, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, he's picked 306. I mean, that's expensive. Martin Maldonado's 536. So
yeah,
he could be like your last pick, but he is going to start. You're right. So if you're just trying to spike some accumulated points,
most likely it's going to be a last round catcher.
Okay, and I think that's probably the right way to play it, because if you draft too good, what happens if? And we haven't even said who the fictitious other catcher is on your team. What if all three are good? Rutschman comes up, and then you have two good ones. You don't want to cut Elias Diaz, and you're using that draft capital. So I think the right move is to then go cheap and at least
get a Ryan Jeffers or a Jonah Heim, like one of those guys that you can easily drop, but also could be pretty decent.
Playing.
Yeah. So I think
Jacob
that
Stallings.
Yeah,
he's going to play every day, and then you can cut him. You're not crying about cutting Jacob Stallings.
Exactly. So
okay, yeah, I mess with that.
But also someone, because I mean, in the range of outcomes with a guy like Rutschman is he goes down to AAA for that first couple of weeks and gets hurt, and now you are stuck with that second catcher or that third catcher for a while. So
be okay with that.
You don't want it to be someone that either doesn't play or is truly atrocious.
Yes.
So you definitely want to be smart about the guy you pick. Don't just be like, who cares? It's only going to be for 2 weeks.
Yeah, because you don't know. You don't know.
I mean, remember like Vlad Guerrero Jr. and before his call up, right? He was only going to be down for 2 weeks, and then he got hurt.
That's right. That's right. And it took a few extra weeks there. And people were just waiting and waiting. No, that's a great call out. So maybe you don't go bottom of the barrel. You go with somebody. A guy that I think I would do it with is my boy Luis Torrens, my non-catching catcher. He's picked 373. I think he's going to hit for some power. Going to play a lot of DH because he's an atrocious catcher. I wouldn't be averse to taking him with my Rutschman, and then kind of see how it goes once Rutschman comes back up.
Yeah, even like Tucker Barnhart,
Barnhart's going to play every day.
Yeah.
We're going to miss Sundays. He's going to miss once a week, but he is the full-time guy in Detroit. He's not in any sort of split as far as I can tell. So, okay, that's the Rutschman. And then give me a favorite then between Stevenson, Ruiz, Rutschman, Kirk. Who is your absolute favorite? Is it just Kirk because he's cheapest, or?
Yeah, it's Kirk because it's cheapest. If we're talking from a true talent standpoint, I think it is Stevenson.
Okay.
He's up, he's ready. I think if there is a path to 400 plate appearances, I think he could be an absolute monster. All these guys are interesting. I would not pair them together.
Agreed.
So
because there is a lot of questions. I'm not trying to go Stevenson, Ruiz there, because it could blow up in your face.
Yeah, I have a league that I did, the Battle of the Podcast League, where I paired Kirk with Joey Bart, and I do not feel very good about that situation.
Understandably.
It's just the way the draft fell. But
I'll tell you what, this leads us into our next tier, because if I get one of the next ones up, the four that we just talked about, I like to pair them with one of these guys. I call these guys the power players. And it's Mitch Garver, who goes pick 199. We'll call it 200 because it's 199.57. So we'll call it pick 200. Travis d'Arnaud, who goes 230. Sean Murphy in Oakland, 253. Elias Diaz, the aforementioned Colorado Rockies catcher, at 248. Mike Zunino, he will not be the pick for me, but he's 280. I have to include him here. And Gary Sanchez, who you already mentioned that you have some shares of, 274. So these guys all deliver big power. Most of them are the full-time starter. Garver is still fighting with Jeffers because Garver's not a good catcher, but Garver can also get some DH run pretty consistently and even some first base run because they don't have Cruz anymore. And yes, they can put Donaldson at DH sometimes too. Like they have other guys they can put there, including Kirilloff, but also Miguel Sano at first. There are avenues for Garver to get some supplemental playing time. So that's why I still included him in this group, because I think he can match their playing time just a different way. Mm-hmm. So these 6 power guys, you've already mentioned having some Gary Sanchez. Is this a group that you are intrigued by as a whole?
Yeah, this is a group where I'm usually getting 1 or even 2 catchers sometimes.
Yeah.
This is my most commonly shopped in tier.
Well, let's go in order then, as I have them listed. Garver.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with me that he's kind of getting overlooked for a rebound season last year?
Yes and no. Like I
mean, he's the 9th catcher, so I don't want to overstate it, right?
Yeah.
It's not like he's buried, but I'm a little bit surprised that he doesn't track more like behind Contreras. Remember when he popped off, he was like the number 2 catcher.
How many games did he play last year? Like 50 something? 56, I want to say.
68.
So
that's the problem. He always does it in small sample. Even the breakout year was in 93 games.
You know, I mean, the hard part, especially, you know, these ADPs are from DCs. And what do you want in DCs? You want plate appearances. You want volume. You don't necessarily know that you can get that. Now, Nelson Cruz is gone. We don't expect him to be back. So there is an opportunity for him to DH some, maybe even play first base if they decide Miguel Sano is going to DH more.
And his health. You know, Donaldson, Sano, and Kirilloff's health are the 3 guys that are blocking him, and they all have their own issues of staying upright.
The problem is there's still 3 of them.
True. That's a
lot of bodies.
And they're all good. Like when they're healthy, they're all above average hit. Even Miguel Sano, someone who I have my issues with in terms of the batting average and everything. When he's going, and he's a premier power bat who the team is going to play. He's 29 years old. So yeah, you're right. It's 3 guys there. That's a good call out on Garver because he has been a small sample god. Only needed 359 plate appearances to hit those 31 homers in 19. Only needed 243 last year to hit 13. So you're right. Maybe he isn't being overlooked. Maybe he's being properly given a little bit of caution because of that.
I mean, there are drafts where he drops quite a bit. I think he is more palatable when you're playing in a league with a good amount of IL spots.
Yeah.
Because especially one catcher formats, like he's kind of the perfect guy for a one catcher format because he's got plenty of upside. You could throw him on your IL when he gets hurt. You just move on to the next guy. But like you don't have to pay for him. Like, you know, I mean, he's going around catcher 12 or 13. Or no, he said catcher 9.
He's catcher 9, but I think in one catcher leagues he does go cheaper. I think guys like Rutschman, even Travis d'Arnaud and Vasquez generally move above him. I don't know if you've done a catcher battle royale yet, by the way.
I have not, and I will not because NFBC works on 2 catchers and every other site.
Yeah, so it makes no sense. You're right. You're right.
But I do have the ESPN.
Where's Garver going over there?
Catcher ADP. He is going, oh my god, going as a 19th catcher off the board. So like if you're playing in a place like ESPN or Yahoo or CBS, and you're especially if you're in a 1 catcher league, but obviously even if you're in a
2 catcher league, I'll take that all day.
That he's a great gamble. So because you know if he gets injured, you can either throw him on your IL if you have room, or you can just jettison him off your roster and go for the next guy.
Exactly.
So I'd actually be more likely to get a guy like him on a league like that than I am in NFBC, where you have no IL, you have limited reserve spots.
And you can't always cover the missed time because it's not always injury, right? Like some of it's injury, but some of it is just he sucks at catching, but then they still need to play Donaldson and Sano, previously Cruz. So they don't have a spot for him. So he just gets these days off and maybe he'll get in a pinch hit at bat later. So you can't always make up for that volume in the 2 catcher NFBC format. So I think it's a great call out on Garver.
I think if people are thinking that he's going to volume his way into being like a really, really nice pick, I think they're making a mistake
I
because
agree with that.
they're going to want to play Donaldson at least 1 or 2 days a week at DH. They're going to want to play Kirilloff at least 1 or 2 days a week at DH. To protect him after that wrist injury.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be other guys. Buxton may get days at DH just to protect him. So I think that while he will get more at bats at DH, it's not going to be enough to overcome kind of his lack of days at catcher.
And Ryan Jeffers is a markedly better defensive catcher
yeah.
too.
So this is not saying I'm out on Garver. I have drafted him, but it has to be at the right price, and I do prefer other guys in this tier. I just kind of messed around with my catcher ranks while we were talking, and moved Elias Diaz above him.
Okay, I think that's completely fair.
And honestly, I'm probably going to drop Garver down even more.
Okay, I don't think that's out of pocket to do that. I still have him as my 10. I'll see about updating, but the points that you make about the volume especially are very fair with Garver. Let's move into the next guy then, because Travis d'Arnaud is a little bit of a small sample king himself. Injuries have ravaged his career, but he's had some spikes here, namely in 19 and 20 when he was a plus hitter. Last year he fell off, 78 WRC plus with 7 homers in his 229 plate appearances. Is the 33-year-old going to rebound and be worth the 12th catcher off the board at pick 230? How do you feel about Travis d'Arnaud in Atlanta?
I think he could.
I've never been a huge fan, man.
Here's the problem with d'Arnaud. Was it 2020 that was great, or 2019 that was great?
2020 was great. 2019 was great. 2020 was no. I haven't flipped. 2019 was good. He was a 100 guy, WRC plus with 16 homers and a very nice 69 ribbies. Remember, that was spread across 3 teams. He went from the Mets to the Dodgers, but then really broke out with the Rays. They said, okay, thank you for your services, but you can go now. He goes to the Braves in 2020, pops 9 homers with a 321 average, good for a 144 WRC plus in 44 games, but then only played 60 last year because injuries crop back up again.
Yeah, and that is 78. That's a big issue with him is he has been injured pretty much his entire career. Like all he does is get injured. We know that there's a ton of talent in the bat. I mean, he was a former top prospect. He was part of
an elite prospect.
He was part of the was it the Dickey trade? Was that right? Am I remembering this right?
I believe you are.
He was part of a big trade between the Blue Jays. I believe it was the Dickey trade.
Yeah, I think
he might have come over with Syndergaard.
Yeah, he did. He was with Thor. He and Thor were the big pieces there for Dickey.
But he's just not been able to stay healthy.
He's also traded for Roy Halladay from Philly to Toronto. So, like, to go back to your point about how for people that might have forgotten or just not realized, TDA was supposed to be a G.
Yeah. And so I like him as in a best ball league. I'm actually pretty interested because I think on a per plate appearance basis, he can be really good. I just don't trust him in a traditional style league because I don't trust him to be able to accumulate plate appearances. So he is likely not going to be on any of my teams, especially now that the Braves have Ozuna back, who will likely occupy the DH more days than not. Like, there isn't another path for him to get as many more plate appearances because of the DH. So, yeah, I'm probably not going to end up with d'Arnaud on any teams.
Same. It's just not somebody that I've ever really gotten the warm and fuzzies with for drafting. And now Manny Pena is a pretty solid backup. I mean, he only hit 189 last year, but still put up a 95 WRC plus because he had quality plate skills. Manny Pena probably deserved better than his 162 BABIP. So he's a capable backup.
They also have William
Contreras, who's Wilson's brother there, who played a little bit last year. So they have options if TDA is not healthy, and they will move on. So I don't really take him either. I probably have him. Yeah, I'm 17th at catcher, right with you. We both have him at 17, which is pricing us. We're saying that we're not getting him. Yeah. What about Sean Murphy in Oakland? He came up with a lot of fanfare. He is a high quality prospect, not just for his hitting, though. He's a quality catcher, and that's a big part of why he would pop up on prospect lists pretty high. But his first two stints were really nice. They were small, 60 and 140 plate appearances, respectively, in 19 and 20. But he was an above average hitter in both of those, flexing a lot of power. Well, he finally got a full-time role this past year, 448 plate appearances. The power dwindled, but he was still basically a league average guy. He hit 99 WRC plus. It was a 216 average, but 17 homers, 59 ribbies, salvaged the season a little bit. Where do you come out on a 27-year-old Sean Murphy? Does he jump back up, or was 2021 kind of who he is?
Yeah, you have to remember too, he came into the season recovering from a collapsed lung.
That's right.
And so I kind of throw out a little bit of the 2021 season from like a power perspective. Like I think there is more power in that bat. Um,
You throw it out in terms of saying like this is not who he is.
Yeah, I don't think this is who he is. I think he's better at contact than he showed last year, and I do think that there's legit 20 plus homer power in this bat.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is he may be that Will Smith gif where he walks in at on the French Prince Bel-Air and everything's already been sold out of the house and he's looking around. Like he may be that guy in Oakland that walks into the Coliseum and it's like, oh hey, it's just me here.
Oh, me and Tony Kemp, sweet.
And yeah, this may be the worst lineup in baseball.
If they get rid of the Mats,
yeah,
it will be.
Yeah, it's gonna be if they get rid of Olsen and Chapman. So, as much as I kind of like Murphy, and that means he'll be in a great spot in the batting order, probably hitting it third or fourth. I think this team is going to be so awful around him, and it's a bad park to hit in. So he's a guy that I'm not taking off my draft board by any stretch. He's also not really a target, especially in this tier, because I'm just worried about how bad that team is going to be around him.
I think that's fair. I think that actually might facilitate a little trickle down for me because I'm a Murphy guy.
I had him very high at the beginning of the season or the beginning of draft season, and have dropped him down to 9 and probably should. I'm going to drop him down to probably the Mitch Garver, Adley Rutschman area, about 13, 14.
I think that's fair because that will affect the counting categories. The piece you're talking about nobody being there in Oakland for him, and he might not hit 216 again, but he's not got a ton of upside there. Even in the two good years, he hit 233 and 245 in those small samples. He strikes out a lot, goes for power, but does take his walks. Better in an OBP league for Sean Murphy. I like him, but I agree with you. I'm not bending over backwards for him. This is a guy who I swear, and I don't know how this is physically possible, but I swear this happened. Elias Diaz, in one of my leagues, I forget which league, was on the waiver wire every week. And every time I did the last 2 weeks, he had hit 8 homers. How did he have 8 homers in every 2-week period and yet still only wound up with 18 on the season? I don't know how that's physically possible, but I assure you that for 26 weeks, what was crazy? Even when I looked him up in the first week of the season, he had 8 homers in the last 2 weeks, which was crazy because they hadn't even played games, Justin. It didn't make sense. But jokes aside, I never picked him up. Maybe I should have because he just kept doing well, and he did have Colorado there. But where do we come out on Elias Diaz, who did have that 18-homer breakout at age 30, 246 average? So, Coors could only do so much. Although it's not because he swung and missed a lot. He might have been unlucky. He only struck out 16% of the time, but had a 249 BABIP. Is there batting average upside for Elias Diaz, or is he one of those heavy fly ball guys? It's not crazy. It's kind of a one. I answer my own question. Sorry. He's a kind of a 1-to-1, but where do you come out on Elias Diaz? He'll be 31. He's still in Colorado. Is he somebody who's on the rise, or did he just have his career year, which was a 92 WRC plus?
No, he is someone on the rise. And this is the opposite of Mitch Garver and Sean Murphy for me, in terms of I had him really lowly ranked coming into
and now you've tripled him up.
One, because I start my ranks before the end of the season.
Yeah.
So I typically have my first run ranks by Labor Day. So like I can't incorporate all of what happens in the second half in my first run ranks.
You are wild for that, by the way. I respect it.
I want to be ahead of everybody just because I don't want to be influenced as much by everybody.
I think that's fair. I totally get that.
And what he did in the second half was make a distinct change to his approach. It led to an 88.7% zone contact percentage.
Whoa.
And he was swinging 77% of the time in the zone.
Wow.
So like he was swinging a lot in the zone and making a ton of contact. And it led to just, a 274 batting average, 11 home runs in the second half. And this is something my comment section on one of my catcher ranks articles pointed out. And I was like, okay.
And said,
I was like,
hey.
all right, I've got to go do some digging. And yeah, he changed his approach, got more aggressive within the zone, got more aggressive just in general, but got especially in the zone, and it paid off. And he's definitely aided by Coors. I don't think he is
Sure.
like naturally a
But who
270
cares?
hitter, but like I think he could legitimately hit 280 with 20 plus home runs. And so I've been moving him up and up my boards. I think I have him at catcher 12 right now. I'll have to double check. I have him at catcher 11 right now, and honestly, he should probably move up into the top 10.
Okay. So Elias Diaz getting a nice big Justin Mason bump here. And I respect it.
There he goes. I'm putting him at 9.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
I think I'm in on that. I think I really am. I'm moving him up right now. Let me see how high I can. I still have that soft spot for Max Stassi, but I might need to chill on that.
I do too, but I've got Stassi at 15. It's just,
he's older, and he's
coming off of injury.
He's always coming off injury. Yeah, like I feel you on that. All right, I'm moving Elias up quite a bit because I had him pretty low too, and I'd been sleeping on exactly what he did last year. Here, let me put this in the sheet, and you'll see where my new rank is on Elias Diaz. I'll just tell you it's going to be 13. So I'm moving him way up from where I had him. I had him quite low though, so that was on me. But I've remedied that.
I want to say I had him outside of my top 20 coming into draft season.
I had him 21. So now I got him at 13. I still got Garver and Murphy, but I'd say Garver, Murphy, Diaz is a trio of sameness. And like you were saying, like
I'm gonna try to persuade you to move him ahead of Garver.
Okay.
Volume.
Just sheer volume. I think that's
he had 194 plate appearances in the second half. The Rockies used him quite a bit as a pinch hitter, which gives some credence to the idea that he could actually get DH time in Colorado, when he's not catching. You could see him have kind of a career season in terms of plate appearances, which that batting average is really valuable at the catcher position. I think he's a top 10 guy.
You hath sold me. I still am 11. I'm an Omar Narvaez honk. I'm gonna flip him. I'll flip him.
I think you should. I like Narvaez too, but I think he's going to lose out some playing time now that they have Zunino.
I like Narvaez as a batting average guy, like you said, but Diaz has the power and the Coors protecting him. Milwaukee's a good place to play too, but Narvaez never really has as much pop. He's more of a batting average guy overall, and I'm doing it. I'm getting on this Elias Diaz train. I think I was biased against him, playing a little ageism there, but catchers you really shouldn't. Like they break out late. They take time. And he showed some flashes back in Pittsburgh. Remember when he was first kind of coming up? And then when he went to Colorado, obviously that you couldn't get a better park move than going from Pittsburgh to Colorado. So yeah, I got him. Top 10. It's done. I like it. Good sell. Good sell. All right. Who else is in this group? Okay. Mike Zunino. I mean, you know how I feel. Like there's obviously a big meme with him and my dislike for him because he cost me big on that batting average bet with Dusty when I suckered him into making a batting average bet on Mike Zunino, and then Mike Zunino somehow hit 251, which was higher than if you added his batting averages up for his first 4 years. Okay, it doesn't quite work out that way, but he'd hit 214, 199, 174, 207. Dusty Wagner, our psychotic friend, thought it'd be a good idea to just burn $50 with like a 230 or 225 over under. Of course, I'm taking that all day. He'd never come close to that. And he hits 251. fuck you, Mike Zunino, you prick. I would be so nice to him if I ever met him. But
we should get him on the
I'm
pod.
talking big shit right now. No, honestly, if I ever did talk to him, I would bring that up and hopefully have like a fun laugh about it, because obviously I have no disdain for Mike Zunino as a person, right? I don't know anything about him, but the meme is Paul Sporer cannot stand Mike Zunino. 33 homers.
Yeah.
Has a lot of people saying, I got to get some Mike Zunino, though. I think it was just high-end variance. I don't think he's changed in any way, shape, or form.
You're absolutely by all means, wrong.
Try to sell me, because he still hit 216. So
yeah, he's gonna swing and miss, and there is gonna be some variance in terms of how many homers he hits year to year. There's gonna be a ton of strikeouts. The batting average is gonna suck, but the power is legit.
Wait. Before you go on your case, then I've never said the power isn't legit. He hit 25, in that 251 season. He had 20. But you're saying that this new 342 ISO has some credence?
I do think it does.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
You look, exit velocity numbers are among the best in baseball. The barrel numbers are among the best in baseball. He has definitely unlocked something in this swing. It, like I said, comes with a lot of batting average downside. So I think if you roster him,
absorbing that.
I think if you he's the perfect person to pair with Keibert Ruiz, right? Ruiz isn't going to get a lot of power, but he's going to give you some batting average safety. Then you can then afford to sacrifice on a guy like Zunino. So then you end up getting maybe two guys who are 20 plus homer power, together, with a batting average that is, not so bad, 240, 250, depending on,
how much Ruiz can bring it up.
Zunino's been seeing the ball, and this is not just a this year thing. This has been going on for now 2 seasons, at an elite level. We're talking about among the best in baseball. So I know you hate him because he kicked your dog or something like that.
No, come on, dude. Yeah, how do you hit 251 after never hitting over 214?
He may be one of those guys that really gets going by the bulletin board material. And when Dusty
he knew about our bet.
When Dusty posted that bulletin board material, he was like, you know what? I don't know who this Sporer guy is.
I'll show this pencil neck geek.
But I'm gonna pretend that the seams on a baseball are actually the mustache on his face, and I am just going to rocket this ball out every chance I get.
He did, and then he went right back to 201 the next year, but still hit 20 homers. So I don't deny the power. I really don't. So if you draft Zunino, you need to have the batting average catcher first. So do you come in with that plan with the Ruiz or Stevenson or Kirk, a few other guys who do batting average? Even I think Omar Nevaez is not a bad Zunino. So do you come in planning that, or do you happen upon it in the draft? Do you set your catcher strategy coming in, or do you just I'm gonna let it play and I can go a lot of different roads?
Yeah, I do not have a set catcher strategy coming into a draft. I'm not our good buddy Bat Flip Crazy Toby, he has a set catcher strategy. He is targeting a Sal Perez or targeting a Jichiro Muto.
JPR is his boy.
Early. I'm not that way. I happen upon catchers, and you can. I remember having a conversation. I think it was with Rob DiPietro on his podcast. Might have been last year or the year before. I can't remember. And he's like, I'm looking at some of your teams because we'd been in a lot of the same leagues together, and they all had different catchers. I was like, that's because I don't have.
You have no plan.
I have no plan. To me, it's like I'm going to take what the draft board gives me a catcher.
Is he putting dossiers together a la our previously aforementioned boy, Zach Waxman? Are you familiar with what he does? Apparently, he has detailed dossiers on his draft competitors. Is Rob
I do too.
Following suit? Oh, so this is a big thing now. Everyone's doing.
Yeah,
you guys got time for this shit?
I've been doing this since 2019, and joined the NFBC. By the time I get to my main event, I have every single main event draft board.
Show me my dossier.
It's really, really thin.
Like me.
Yes.
I don't know whether to take offense to that.
You should. It was meant to.
I don't.
Okay.
Because I've won a league and you haven't.
Ouch.
And I will hold that over you. Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna go easy here. I'm not even gonna try to be creative with a burn. I mean, I won last year, like
I'm
bloody.
hoping that you and I get into the same main event league in
I would love
Vegas.
that. I
Uh,
would love that.
have you signed up yet?
No, I will today.
All right, there you
I'll
go.
do it. I'll do it. Okay, okay. We need to pick up the pace, or else we're gonna be here all day. We're not gonna talk about everybody and all the rest of these teams. Gary Sanchez, though, you already have him. You mentioned one share, the league that we're in. Is that the only one that you have so far?
No, I mean,
Okay, so
I,
you're in on Big Gary. What are we looking at here? I mean, obviously,
I think he is who he is at this point.
okay, so
I mean,
nothing under the surface that you're like he's gonna blow back
no.
up to where he
I
was
mean, there's
back in the day.
once you show a skill, you own it, right? The
True,
old
true.
baseball HQ adage. But
But he ain't hitting close to that 278 from
yeah,
2017 for
no,
quite a while.
I'm taking the power if I need power at that point, and hoping maybe I get lucky in the BABIP, and which leads to a little bit higher batting average. But ultimately, yeah, I just want the 25 home runs I'm going to
In a
get
good lineup
in a
and
good
just
lineup. Yeah,
hope something. Okay, that's fair. I don't think there's too much more analysis that needs to be done. I agree with you. Gary Sanchez is essentially and is who he is kind of guy. What you see is what you get. But there is still that little tinge. He is on the right side of 30 of everything coming together again, health wise, BABIP wise, and maybe not all the way back up to the 278 or 299 of his first two seasons in 17 and 16 respectively, but like a 250. And if you got 25 250 out of Gary with good counting categories, he's a top 5 catcher. So
yep.
that's a 5% thing. I'm not saying that that's the goal, but it could happen. So okay. And I'm listening on Zunino because the really interesting thing about my hate for him is I adore him in MLB The Show. He's a god because power cards like that, even if they have low contact, for those that play the show, you can still be a god if you make enough contact. And Zunino is. So it's funny how much I love him in the show.
Also a very good catcher, like an
Yes,
actual catcher.
and that's a playing time thing. You didn't even hit on that when you were selling him. He's playing.
Yeah.
Because he plays brilliantly, calls games, great arm, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you know what? Maybe I'll move him up a little bit. All right, let's go to the full timers here. We just recently dove into the Christian Vasquez thing, so go to the previous episode.
Yeah, we disagree.
Full breakdown there. We disagree, but you get a full breakdown on Vasquez there. And then there was an interesting tweet furthering your side about the hitting metrics, and I do grant that because it's a fact, right? It's just the fact of his profile. I think for me with Vasquez, last thing I'll say is I just don't think he needs to do that much more to still be a solid catcher where he's going. And those incremental steals carry so much weight that he can do like a 10 and 5 and it's fine. But anyway, we spoke about that. I don't want to belabor that. I'm not trying to take a cheap shot or anything like that. Our cases are well laid out there on the previous episode. So the full timers: Vasquez, Omar Nevaez, Carson Kelly, Yadier Molina, James McCann, and Max Stassi, if he's healthy. I included him here. I probably could have included him in the power players, to be quite honest. He can play he can be a full-time catcher if his body will allow it. Who's your favorite of this group? Let's do that.
Ooh. It's probably Stassi. But I have a really soft spot in my heart for Yadier Molina, and I think he's going way too late. He
just gets pushed down every year despite kind of continuing to just be.
He just racks up plate appearances, which is great at catcher, because they're not bad plate appearances. It's not like he's
usually with some batting average too.
Yeah, right. So
he was the 10th catcher last year, Justin.
Yeah, I know.
Why
so
he pick 300.
He's a guy that I end up landing on quite. I like this tier kind of a lot. Omar Nevaez is a guy you and I have both been in on for a while. Stassi, when he's healthy, is great. I'm not. McCann was being overdrafted last year, and I said that. Now I wonder if he could be underdrafted a little bit and offer some value. I don't think he's ever going to be the guy that maybe some people prorated him out to be
from the White Sox when
the White Sox numbers,
huge batting average with the pop. Yeah,
but I think he can be very, very useful, especially in your as a kind of low end C2. So
I agree with the we invoke our favorite line from the 06010. The hate has gone too far.
Yeah.
I think it has. He's the 25th catcher off the board. James McCann is at pick 321. I think that's kind of crazy for somebody that has a full-time role that has shown the kind of batting average capability that he has in his past. Now he's only a career 246, but again, 246
Yeah.
is not bad. He hit 232 last year. The homers were only 10. He got off to a brutal start. Hey man, going to the Big Apple, it's a transition for some folks. Lindor, I think, too. And I'm not expecting McCann to get back to where he was in 19 and 20 with the White Sox, where he combined for 25 homers and 587 plate appearances with the 276. But I would take like mid-teens homers
Yeah.
with a 250 average.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
think
that'd
that's
be
totally
great
right. Yeah.
with where he's going. So Narvaez is my favorite, or Stassi, one of those two. But I'm back in on McCann, and I agree with you on the Yachty call out. I like this group a lot. If I'm taking
I like Carson Kelly too. Like
yeah,
Kelly on a
Let's talk Kelly.
Kelly on a per plate appearance basis is actually really, really good. You know, he
The injury
struggled.
derailed him last year. He was having a brilliant year, wasn't
Yeah, yeah, he would have had a monster season had he stayed healthy. And he was one of those super unlucky guys. Like it wasn't like it's kind of injuries you get playing catcher, right?
he?
Like
What you were saying
yeah,
earlier about catchers in
nailed
general,
it.
because wasn't it a foul ball off his toe that broke it,
Yeah,
if I recall correctly?
twice I believe, and
Yeah,
then I think he got a fracture in his wrist or something like
and
that.
then he just came back, and even
Yeah,
with the injury still, and they said, "Well, we're just going to let you play."
yeah.
Um,
So if he's healthy and can stay healthy, like I think he could be actually really good. Like I think out of this grouping, he may have the highest upward mobility
mhm.
in terms of like being able to vault himself up like maybe 2 tiers.
He had a 260 average, 845 OPS, and 8 homers in the first half. Cratered after that,
Yeah.
660, 221, and 5 because he was hurt.
But he was playing with multiple broken bones.
Yeah, he played through injury, and that's what you get. You get a
Yeah.
much lesser iteration. But I like
So,
I love this tier. I'm really seeing how much I
yeah.
love this group of
This is
guys
one of the
here.
reasons why I am okay waiting if you aren't willing, if you aren't able or aren't willing to pull a trigger on early catchers. Like I have no problem just double dipping in this
I'd
tier,
take 2 of these. Yeah, I was literally about to say that. I would go
or
Narvaez Kelly.
there's guys in the next tier that I really like as well. So
Let's go into that. This is the rest. These are the kind of cutoff of guys who are going to be playing in the bigs with some pretty guaranteed time to start. The last group called the potential. They've got potential to go up, but these guys are kind of set. Joey Bart in San Francisco, Eric Haas with the Tigers as could also get some supplemental non-catching work. Danny Jansen in Toronto, Austin Nolan, San Diego, Jan Gomes with the Cubs, Jacob Stallings in Miami, Jorge Alfaro's also with San Diego, but has some potential to maybe play a little outfield mix in, maybe get out from behind the dish. Luis Torrens, I already mentioned, non-catching catcher for sure because he's dreadful behind the dish. And Tucker Barnhart in Detroit, Torrens in Seattle. Who do you specify? You said you like a few guys here. Who are you liking in this tier?
yeah, I like a lot of guys. Maybe it's some homerism, but I have watched a lot of Joey Bart, and I know people are like, oh, he hasn't lived up to his potential. I think there's some real potential in this bat.
Let's dive in a little bit deeper here because I'm hearing that too. Like I thought we'd see a wave of interest for 2 catcher leagues, like nothing crazy, but like a wave of interest once Posey retired. But all I'm hearing is Bart slander.
Yeah,
I feel like nobody likes Bart.
and I feel like these are from people who've never watched him play. They're just
Okay.
looking at the raw numbers and going, I don't see anything here. But you watch him play.
117 plate appearances. What the
Yeah,
hell?
exactly. And disjointed plate appearances, right? And you have to
Mm-hmm.
remember too, like he broke his thumb in Arizona Fall League, and he's had some like kind of weird injuries that have kind of stalled his development. Plus, he had Posey in front of him; he was never going to get enough
Full
plate
burn.
appearance, yeah, for him to get comfortable at the plate. So, um, my guess is they're going to move forward with him as the number one guy, and
And Casali.
Casali there as kind of the veteran leadership and to kind of mentor him a little bit and kind of ease him in. Um, when he barrels the ball, it just screams out of there. And so I think that there's gonna be some variance in the outcomes, right? But I think there is a real chance he could be like a 20 plus homer guy with a decent batting average in San Francisco, where if he is hitting the ball, he will end up DHing a lot on his days off. So
So that's
uh,
Joey Bart with the Giants there. I gotta say, by the way, first off, we got about 8 minutes. I had a harder out than I thought. I forgot about
No worries.
something. But Eric Haas, I'm gonna go anti-homerism and say I'm not drafting him. I have zero interest.
I have interest just because he's going to play the field too.
I don't think he is.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't think he's very good in the outfield, and I think they have guys. So I mean, I don't think he is enough to matter, is what I should say. Not that he'll never play the outfield, because in the second he plays the outfield, I'm gonna get a tweet like, "You said he would never play." No, I don't think he's gonna get enough. Badu
He's
and
not going
Grossman
to
in the
Austin
corners.
Nola it.
Exactly. I think Badu and Grossman in the corners have him locked out.
Oh, maybe.
So, Victor Reyes is in center, but Badu could move there, and then maybe you talk about opening up the outfield a little bit. He is the backup catcher, so he's going to play some. But you're talking about a guy at age 28, came out of nowhere, popped 22 homers with a 231 average, was dreadful down the stretch, like just absolutely putrid. In August and September, when people needed him after they were relying on him, he hit 4 total homers with like a 208 average in the final 2 months of the season. He had the 9-homer July with a 265 average. So much of his work is confined to the 2-month run of June, July. I just don't see it with Haas. I don't even want him as a C2. I say avoid.
Okay. All right. Just kind of wrap up this tier real quickly, because I know you got to run and stuff. I'm interested in Austin Nola, and I'm interested in Jorge Alfaro, but not until they trade one of them.
Fair.
I assume Nola is going to be the one who's traded, because they just traded for Alfaro.
And they still got Campusano lurking, who we're going to get into.
And Victor Caratini.
Oh, my God. Yes. Geez.
So, this is... I think Campusano could get traded, and I think Austin Nola will likely get moved as well. So I think it gets worked out. And then maybe Alfaro is actually the really interesting one, because I think he might play more than we expect him to. But I need a little clarity before I'm going to overinvest in either of those guys.
I think that's fair. I still like Nola as well, but I agree that, like, can we get some clarity on what's up with the playing time there? But he is the 26th catcher off the board, so even without the clarity, it's not crazy. I've mentioned Terrence a bunch. I'm just going to keep saying it. Dude hits for a ton of power, and he's just going to be power at non-catching catcher. I like it. All right, the potential tier. MJ Melendez, who you put me on a few episodes ago. People can listen to that. Francisco Mejia, who you briefly mentioned earlier. Jonah Heim, who was one of my gold digging gems picks from last episode. Ryan Jeffers, Gabriel Moreno, Cal Raleigh, Luis Campusano, Riley Adams, and Austin Allen. Adams is in Washington. Austin Allen's in Oakland. Campusano in San Diego. Raleigh in Seattle. Moreno in Toronto. Jeffers in Minnesota. Heim in Texas. Mejia in Tampa Bay. And Melendez in KC. Figure I should say where those guys play, because these are some deep, deep names. You put me on Melendez. He had 8 billion homers last year, and they might try to find him playing time, even with Perez there. Who else really jumps out to you here in this tier?
I mean, I really like Jeffers just because Garver is injury prone.
And Jeffers is exponentially better defensively.
Austin Allen's interesting if maybe Sean Murphy gets moved. If maybe it's not Sean Murphy by himself. Maybe he gets, he's entering his arbitration years. Maybe Oakland doesn't want to pay those. And so he could move. Austin Allen would become much more.
I had some Austin Allen love previously too, like, because he can hit for some pop. He hasn't really shown it at the major league yet, but I agree with you on Austin Allen.
Heim is interesting because I think he's going to catch more days than not.
Yep.
That's about it. I know Jason really likes Cal Raleigh.
Okay, that's good, because that's exactly where I was going. Is your concern Tom Murphy?
Yeah, it shouldn't be.
Probably not, right?
Yeah.
So Cal Raleigh is like a legit prospect, right? He got called up last year. Nothing to write home about in his sample. In fact, quite awful. 35% strikeout, 5% walk, 47 WRC plus, and 148 plate appearances. So that's kind of washed out there of how bad that was. He was so much better in AAA, though, in a damn near equal sample. It kind of shows you the up and down of Cal Raleigh. He hit 324, only struck out 13% of the time, hit 9 homers, even chipped in 3 steals. He ran a little bit in 19 too, 4 steals in 82 games at high A. I'm not saying that that's a major component of Cal Raleigh's game, but he's switch hitting catcher who's got some athleticism. I'm kind of intrigued by him because my boy Terens is not really going to take the catching role. Like I said, he's a non-catching catcher. I think he DHs, plays a little first, maybe catches once in a blue moon just to get Tom Murphy or Cal Raleigh off their feet. But I think Cal Raleigh has some upside. What's Jason been saying about him?
Oh, he's just mentioned that he's been kind of a target for him, especially in DCs.
In DCs, I really like him.
So I probably need to do a little bit more digging. So
if you're a pedigree guy, right? I do.
Mm-hmm.
I know some folks don't care about pedigree. I do give some credence to pedigree. I think he's a legit prospect who we have not come close to seeing the best of yet. He's going to be 25. I don't think Tom Murphy's got a stranglehold on the gig by any stretch. Health has been a major reason for that. He's a 31-year-old who's solid but unspectacular in Murphy. And then, like I said, Terens can't actually catch. So I think Cal Raleigh does have some viability. I like him in AL only as well when you need two catchers because that gets really thin there.
Mm-hmm.
So I say take a look at him. What about going back to San Diego? You mentioned how you like Nola or Alfaro if they get moved out of there, and Carantini's lurking. So are you fully out on Luis Campusano this year then?
I think he's going to be part of a trade.
Okay.
So I think he could end up in a better situation where he could get full-time playing time. Maybe they, do that to address other areas of need, either in the bullpen or in the other aspects of their lineup that are a little bit weaker on the bottom half. So I don't expect him to get much playing time in San Diego, but he could get it somewhere else.
Yeah, like it's not quite the same caliber of catchers as Toronto, but San Diego getting a little flooded there where you're just like, how does everyone play? Alfaro can play a little outfield. Nola can ostensibly play a little infield, but are they going to do that, or are they just going to have a log jam at catcher? And then the last guy, Matt Thaiss. You briefly mentioned him earlier. He is not catcher eligible, but give me the rundown of why you have some Matt Thaiss love.
Yeah, he is, I think, going to be the backup catcher to Stassi, who, like we said, Stassi has had injury issues pretty much his entire career. This is a former kind of top prospect. He was their 16th overall pick.
That's right.
For the Angels as a first baseman, but has worked his way back or through the minor leagues now as a catcher. 17 home runs in 101 games last year with 2 stolen bases at AAA with a 280 batting average. Also posted a 13% walk rate. If Stassi can't stay healthy, you can see Thaiss really kind of emerge kind of as the guy at catcher. He also could work his way into some sort of first base or DH mix on the days off for Walsh or days off. The problem is he's left-handed though.
So they're not an obvious platoon.
So he's not a platoon guy, which would, if he was a righty, that'd be great because Walsh is awful against left-handed pitching.
It'd be perfect. He would be playing
not
that short side with Walsh. But he is slated as the backup catcher right now. And there was an article at The Athletic about a month ago. Sam Blum did a Q&A and Thaiss was the top question there. Like, can he do it? And there's a quote from Perry Manassian saying he's really opened our eyes, and we think that he could possibly be that backup catcher for us, which, because of Stassi's issues health-wise, it might be more of like a 55-45 catching role, especially if Thaiss really takes to it. So I like this call out a lot. It's a guy that you take in like a DC very late, and he doesn't have catcher eligibility right now, but he should get it pretty quickly. So I like him there, but we do have to wrap up. I am getting my phone call from a radio spot, but Justin, great speaking with you about the backstop, and we'll do more previews next week.
Take it easy.